Welcome to Theology on Tap, LA traffic. Anyways, by far the biggest news from last week, in my opinion, is 3 letters, NPC, non-playable characters. And it's been applied to all the social justice warriors, Democrats or socialist Democrats, same thing. And, mainstream media. And of course, they're getting all offended by it. And it's kind of funny that I think Twitter has banned, 1,500 accounts because of it. And I thought about it for a little while, and I found it interesting or funny or whatever, that I would think that NPC can also be applied to a lot of Christians. Because a lot of times we tend to say things about our faith, about the things that we believe in, about our theology, without really having to understand where it comes from, where that theology comes from. Is it really scripture-based or not? Because I think most of us as Christians, we just kind of tend to say what we hear from preachers and others, teachers, but we don't really look into it. So if you believe everybody's a sinner, why would you think that? If you believe that majority of the world is going to hell, and hell is an eternal place, why would you think that? So it's most people only believe what they were taught, but they don't really think through. So therefore, that's what NPC is, a non-playable character, because they just say what they hear, but they don't really have any substance behind it. Okay, and I'm talking about that today because the Pope was on the news for the last couple of weeks talking about the church, and because Catholic Church is in big trouble. Because it seems like this Pope Francis, who is supposed to be the best, he was heralded as the best Pope ever because he is so down to earth, he loves people and all things like that. But it turns out he's been helping out a lot of the pedophiles. He's been hiding the facts behind it, and it's making the church look even worse. So he comes out, he's been talking about it recently. So of course, just like a lot of Christian, whether you're Catholic or a Christian, it doesn't really matter because this theology is the same. What he said was, we are under an attack by the devil or Satan, always. So it's kind of like, we're always under attack by the devil. And he believes because the church is in trouble right now, he believes the church is being attacked by the church, by the devil. And what he said was that we should pray to the saints. And he named a couple of saints that we should pray out to, which is somewhat different than what the Christians believe. Because Catholics, pray to the saints. And I'm sure they could back it up from a few of the verses from the Old Testament, I guess. But, they do what they do. It's historical or whatever. But, of course, Christians wouldn't agree with that. So right there and then you could say, well, why do you pray to the saints? Is it because you believe saints listen to your prayers? Or do you believe that because somebody told you they'd listen to our prayers? Or when a pope says, pray to St. Thomas, or I forget which saint it was, because he emphasized on defending yourself from the devil or something like that. I don't know. So, that's one thing. Another thing is Satan. Well, a lot of times we give way too much credit to the devil, in my opinion. But, a lot of us believe in the fact that Satan is out to get us and stuff because that's what we're taught. Is it true or false? Well, how do we know? We should study it. Don't just believe in what people say. But what I thought was the most interesting thing out of all is that the way that the Pope was trying to defend the priest that is guilty of, heinous act. One of the bigger sins, in my opinion, it would be, I would think, whether you're a Christian or not, it's just a horrible thing that a lot of the priests did, the pedophiles I'm talking about. So what he's basically said is, look, all these bishops who have committed this heinous act, we're all human beings, and we all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That's what he was saying. We're all sinners. Well, if we're all a bunch of sinners, then how come we would think that certain people in the position, like bishops and priests, are closer to God? Why should we think that? Should we think that preachers have been called by God, so therefore what? We are special, we're better. But then if we, and because it seems like a lot of times we are Christian leaders or Catholic leaders are respected as people that are closer to God, all right? But then when they sin and are caught sinning, then it's what? Oh, we're all the same? We're all the same, so therefore what? What does that mean? We should forgive for what they have done? Is that what is he trying to say? So I thought that was kind of weird. Of course, that's another NPC time, you know. Do you believe that everybody is the same? We all have sinned, so because we're a bunch of sinners. Now, what verses would you use to back that up, right? And whatnot. And then the worst thing that I think the Pope said was this. He's saying one of the big attacks against the church was the fact that the sins of these bishops are being revealed. So what he was basically saying, and this is from what I read it a few times over to make sure I was not, you know, reading it incorrectly. But what he seemed to have said is that he blames the devil for revealing the sins of these bishops to the general public. Right? And I don't know how many people would read that and agree with that. But I guess that's a sensitive subject too, you know. If you belong to the church, let's say, and if they sin, you know, do something horrible, do you make that horrible act known to everyone, or do you hide it to protect the image of the church? I don't know. It's like policemen, right? Policemen. There was a recent case where a police lieutenant was caught driving drunk, and another policeman comes along and just say, "Hey, you're drunk. You gotta get out of the car. You're gonna have to arrest you." But he just pulls out his badge and say, "Look, I'm a cop, right? So just let me go." That's what he was saying. So should the police officer let him go because he's a lieutenant, and you know, if he gets out, then basically he's making the police department look bad, right? Same thing with in the Christian church. Is it the devil that is causing the sins of the bishops revealed to the general public so that we could get upset at the church? You know, which is kind of a weird way of looking at it. I mean, not too long ago, I actually made a video about it last year. Now, I took it down because the church that I was talking about asked me to take it down because it might hurt the image of the church. And what was going on at the church at the time, I thought it was something that people should know because I wanted them to do what was right. But they're saying that by revealing it, right, I'm hurting the church, therefore I'm doing the devil's work. I guess that's how people look at it. I mean, I took it down because I didn't want to be a hindrance to the church or anything, but I really didn't think that revealing something horrible that the church was doing the devil's work, because that's what the Pope is saying. Well, I'm sure a lot of people believe him for that, right? So therefore I say NPC. I guess you just follow people who tells you what to believe and what to do, and people just go ahead and do it. The individual relationship with God, I think, is hurt by that, in my opinion anyways. So to the end, I want to talk about this comedian, Emo Phillips. I don't know if you heard of him. I think he's still around, but he is very funny. And what he said about religion, I thought was really funny. And he said this. He said he really wanted a certain kind of a toy when he was young. I forgot what it was. So he would pray for it, pray for it. But then he realized that's not how God worked, right? Oh no, it was yeah, he wanted a toy. And he prayed for it, but he realized that's not how God works. Just because you pray for some materialistic things, that God's gonna just answer you and just give it to you. So he figured that he will just go ahead and steal it and go to church and ask God for forgiveness. Right? That's what we preach, isn't it? That's the Christian way. I thought that was perfect. Anyway, that's what it seems like the Pope is doing. They were taking care of business. They were doing some horrific things. They're trying to hide it, but then it got found. So now he's blaming the devil for all things. So now we have to ask God for forgiveness and then move on as if nothing really happened. I don't know. I mean, church is gonna be around. Church is really strong, in my opinion. They got a lot of connections, a lot of money and stuff, so it will continue. But I hope that people who belong to the church, and of course I'm talking about myself, I'm talking not the Catholic Church, but we all Christians belong to some church. But I hope we come to a sense of understanding that we don't have to believe everything that has been told us to believe, that we could look into scripture, dig into it and come up with our own understanding that might be different. And maybe sometimes it'd be a good thing to point those things out. I think it would be great. I mean, if all have sinned, fallen short of the glory of God, which Romans 3:23 says, but then church never goes to the next verse. Maybe we should start. So instead of calling everybody sinners, we should call them something else. I don't know. Because it sounds so simple that we all sin, so therefore all we have to do is ask God for forgiveness and then we are okay. But if you don't believe in Jesus, you're all gonna go to hell. Hey, we should look into it. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, I hope you like this video, and God bless you, and I'll see you next time. I guess what I'm trying to say is don't just believe what you were taught when it comes to religion about faith. Have a relationship with Jesus, and come up with your own ideas, I think, own thoughts, and follow your heart, follow the Spirit. God bless you. I'll see you next time.